My name is Jeff Greer from Villiera Wines. Our family purchased Villiera in 1983, so we've been here for 40 years. And this year we sold to Grand Chat de France, and there's a local subsidiary called Iwaini, which we are now part of. And at Villiera we made the choice in 1983 to focus on Cup Classique. So Cup Classique is South Africa's version of bottle fermented sparkling wine, and it's basically a category that's been doing very well in South Africa. It's been growing over the last 40 years, and we actually hold a leadership position in the category, one of the bigger producers. 50% of the wines we produce are bottle fermented sparkling wines, and we have a range of Cup Classiques. We have a Brut non-vintage white, a Brut non-vintage rosé. We have a light Cup Classique. We have a Prestige Cuvée, and then we have a couple of demi-secs, a white and a rosé. And that's basically a range that satisfies the market. We have one Cup Classique which says a lot about Villiera and our philosophy. It's a product called Brut Natural, which means it's an extra dry, zero dosage type Cup Classique. And it's made without any additives apart from sugar and yeast for the second fermentation, so sulfur free. And that says a lot about Villiera because we do a lot on the sustainability front. For example, we have the biggest wine cellar roof-mounted solar energy generation plant in South Africa. We have a game sanctuary where we've planted over 120,000 indigenous trees to offset our carbon footprint. To get back to the Cup Classique, to avoid having to reinvent the wheel, we actually formed a royalty agreement with a French champagne producer. Okay. And he used to come out and I used to visit Champagne on a regular basis, so we could quickly learn the process. Yeah. And that really put us on the right track quickly. And it's why we kind of hold a leadership position today in the Cup Classique category. Yeah. And so in the Western Cape, we are blessed with a Mediterranean climate, which means winter rain, summer drought. Here in the Stellenbosch area, which is where we are situated, are sort of equally distant, 25 kilometers as the crow flies to each of those two oceans. And we have a southeasterly wind that comes off the False Bay area, which basically helps to cool things down in the afternoon. And then in winter we have fairly cool conditions with a reasonable amount of rain. The average is about 700 millimeter. This year we've had over 900 millimeter, but we've also had drought where we have 450 millimeter. At Villiera, apart from Cup Classique, we also do Chenin Blanc, okay, which is the most widely planted variety in South Africa. And then we also do Sauvignon, which is a very popular variety in South Africa. We're talking Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah. But we also do Cabernet Sauvignon, which is Stellenbosch's strength. But for our non-vintages, we do sometimes include a bit of Pinotage as well, because that's a local variety which gives a bit of uniqueness to the non-vintage Cup Classiques. But for the Prestige Cuvées and the more expensive Cup Classiques, we're only using Chardonnay, Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. Okay. The Stellenbosch region is blessed with quite a few different types of soil, different soil structures. And it depends where you are. So if you're closer to the mountains, there's a lot of what we call Clovelly Hutton soils, which is mainly decomposed granite, mm-hmm, with quite deep soils and good drainage. And in the lower lying areas, it's mostly duplex or Kroonstad soil structures, which is basically undulating layers of sand over clay over gravel. Villiera is very tourist orientated, and we basically invite tourists to come and visit and taste our wines. So we have different tasting options. On the Cup Classique side, we actually have a bubbly or a Cup Classique nougat pairing, which is a special option that one can choose. And we've specially selected the nougat to match the 4 of our different Cup Classiques. And then we do offer a little cheese board, which is more of a snack than anything else. We don't have a restaurant. Instead of introducing a restaurant here, we decided to introduce a game sanctuary. So the game sanctuary allows us to rehabilitate some neighboring property, which is an old clay mine. So we're rehabilitating that area. We've included some of our property into that area, and a couple of neighbors have included property. So we end up with a 225 hectare property which has been converted into a game sanctuary, which also allows us to plant indigenous trees and offset our carbon footprint. So we have 2 game drive vehicles that take 10 people, and they go out morning and evening. It gets busy at this time of year, and we have 2 game guides that take the drives. But in the process, they show our visitors what we do in the vineyard. They show them the solar generation of power, and they talk about environmentally friendly practices in the vineyard. And you get to see a whole bunch of very interesting game, including zebra, giraffe, wildebeest, and then all the antelope species. But so our game drive attracts people like a restaurant would. Yes. And then after the game drive, they come and taste our wines. But by that time, they have more knowledge of our sustainability practices.
Hello, my name is Johan Jordan. I'm the cellar master at Spier Wines. So welcome here at Spier. We're in Stellenbosch. I think it's one of the most known regions from South Africa. It wasn't the first region. The first region was Constantia, or in the gardens of Cape Town. And then the second region was where grapes were planted, was Stellenbosch. So yeah, the first grapes were planted here in the farm was granted in 1692. And back then it was a Dutch East India Company that ran the Cape. There was, let's call it the company at the Cape. And then they brought people from all over the world to create this farming environment where they can put food on the ships. Right. So obviously on to India and Southeast Asia to get spices and the likes. The spice route. So we had to feed the spice route. So the company gardens was the first production of fruit and vegetables, and then it became too small, and then Stellenbosch was the second town that was established after Cape Town. And this farm was granted in 1692, so to a German settler, and since then there was 4 families that owned this property, and the current owners have owned this property since 1992. So this farm has been a vegetable farm, it's been a fruit farm over the years. And now today we're an organic farm producing organic wines on the farmstead itself. It's a big property. But we also get wine from other vineyards around us in Stellenbosch, and also vineyards from other climate regions in South Africa. Mostly in the coastal belt, for grapes, and then we also get some wine from the inland part of South Africa. So yeah, we've got quite an extensive knowledge of the climates and the regions and the soils of not just Stellenbosch, but also the greater Western Cape. So Stellenbosch as a region, I think it's a very versatile region because of the many different soil types we have here. So if you come into Stellenbosch for the first time, the first thing you'll see is the mountains. Right. That has a very big influence on the macroclimate of the region, and then the different valleys and the different aspects on which we farm is chosen for the particular soil types. So the major soil type here is Cape granite, which is decomposed granite, so that's the bedrock, and then with high percentages of clay, and then very sort of closer to the coast there's a layover of Table Mountain sandstone. And also the sands that you find here is not necessarily sandstone, but also it's granitic sand. So the closer you get to the coast, it's Table Mountain sandstone, but if you go inland, it's more granitic sands over clays. And then there's complex formations of shale as well in Stellenbosch. Right. And that's the big thing about South Africa. You can go 100 meters, you'll have a different soil type. It's extremely complex, the terroir, or just the soil. So what we farm, what we like is granitic sands, because it gives, or granitic soils, because it gives us a salinity to the wines. That's because of the high potassium content in the soil. And if we want really fruity wines, then we go to the sandstone parts for production, where you don't really want structure, but you just want fruit. And the shale soils, as you would have heard from other regions like the Swartland, gives you a very precise fruit flavor profile and very, very fine tannins. So when we make wine in the Stellenbosch region, we already find those three major soil types here. And we can make, this is what makes Stellenbosch such a versatile region, as you can make wines from different areas in Stellenbosch that can reflect the same as other regions. The climate coming in here, so we have the two oceans or two bodies of water rather. There's the False Bay, which is Atlantic Ocean. It's a shallow bay, so the water is not that cold. It's about 12 to 16 degrees Celsius. And then we've got Table Bay, which is at Cape Town. That's a much deeper bay, and that's the open ocean. So that water is a lot colder there. So Stellenbosch's climatic influence is from these two big bays. So if you come from the south, where we are sitting at the moment, we get the cold air coming from our backs, from the southeast and the southwest. And that then gets funneled by the mountains, which if you go from the south to north in Stellenbosch, which is on the eastern side. So it brings the cold air almost in a circular motion back to the ocean. That's from the south. And then from the west, there's the Table Bay influence. So if the southwesterly wind blows, you get cold water from Table Bay. And if the southeaster blows, you get coldish water from False Bay. So this sort of churns in this amphitheater of Stellenbosch. And then obviously the hot air coming in from Paarl or the Swartland pushes the cold air up and back to the ocean. So it's quite a turbulent area, Stellenbosch. There's always a bit of wind blowing here. There's a lot of movement of air, which is good because it gives us a more maritime climate, not necessarily Mediterranean, maritime, and it means that we have slow ripening. So you have high concentrated wines that's ripe. It can be soft, but typically there's good structure here because of the low potential of the soil, the structure in the clays and in the granites and in the shales. And so in general terms, you'll find wines, the red wines from Stellenbosch, to be quite robust, quite tannic, but also elegant. It's not like this powerhouse that you have to wait 10 years before you can drink it, because we got enough sunlight as well. So, but it's a slow ripening, and then it's a mature. You get fruit maturity. Your tannins soften and ripen because of this maritime influence, and the time that you can, for the grapes that they can hang on the vineyards to properly ripen. So 2023 was quite an interesting year. Yeah, so in general terms, we have rainfall between, depending on where you are in Stellenbosch, you can get from 500 up to 800 millimeters of rain where there's vines growing. But if you go into the mountains, it can go well over 1,000 millimeters. So where we're sitting today on Spier, on the farm, which is about 10 kilometers from the False Bay coast in the south. Here we get about between 500 and 700 millimeters of rain. 700 being a very wet year and 500 not that dry, but so we've been down to 340 millimeters in 2019, I think. Okay. And this year up to now we're close to 1,000 millimeters of rain. So Australia got grapes from France and we also got grapes from France. Yeah. We called it Hermitage because it came from the Rhone. The wine growers from France that ended up in South Africa came from the Rhone Valley. Right. My family is some of those. Okay. My family came to South Africa in 1688. Okay. So that's almost from the beginning. So that's the French Huguenots. If you hear in the history in South Africa, the French Huguenots, they came from that Rhone region. So the Rhone varietals is what they used to. So South Africa got some grapes and Australia got grapes at the same time. They got Syrah, yes. And that's why they call that Hermitage. Yeah. And we got Cinsault, and we call Cinsault Hermitage. So they got the good grapes for red wine making and we got good grapes for rosé making. But the crossing of these two did not make a light wine like the parents. It made it this deep colored wine. Color is deep. And it's got a lot of tannin also, which neither of the two parents has.
I'm Lola Nichols. I grew up on a grape farm about 5 kilometers away from here. My father was a grape grower and he used to supply the bigger wineries with grapes. He never actually made wine, although he had studied winemaking. When I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I did the Cape Wine Academy up to my master's level and then got offered a job at a vineyard called Warwick. I was there for 6 years, trained under Norma Ratcliffe, and then we had this opportunity. My father had quite a few grape farms, and this was one of them, Mitre's Edge, but it was, as I say, all the grapes were sent to Nederburg. And then in '99 we inherited the farm. We had to replace all the cultivars because they were virus infected, and so planted the 5 Bordeaux Reds and Shiraz. And then a few years later we planted some Viognier and Chenin Blanc. And our focus is on the Bordeaux Reds, specifically the blends of them. We do the equivalent of a left bank style, like predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon, and we do a right bank style, which is predominantly Cabernet Franc. My husband is actually an engineer by profession, but he when we built the brand in 2004, he took it on to run the farm and make sure everything's running correctly and the paperwork's right, because there's a lot of red tape in the wine industry. We are in the absolutely perfect area for the Bordeaux style of red wines. So it's very Mediterranean climate, sort of hot, dry summers and cooler, wet winters. We are 40 minutes out of Cape Town, and we fall in a sub-ward called Simonsburg-Paarl, so we're just on the border of Stellenbosch and Paarl. We do irrigate because obviously with climate change, and whether it's climate change or global warming, it is getting hotter and drier, and so we do irrigate with microjets. So we have 4 sleeping units. We have our pool house, which is obviously the one with the swimming pool, and it's the bigger unit. And then we have 2 studios, and then we have a double unit, which is it can sleep 4 people. So in total, we can sleep 12 people here. You stay here, you obviously get a complimentary cheese and wine tasting.
Okay.
Again, our focus being, as a boutique seller, we have to produce less than 50,000 bottles a year. We currently produce about 27,000, but we would like to get up to 50,000, but there's obviously no point to doing it until you've got a market for it. So we're building up slowly. And then in terms of our grape production, we do about at least 80% of it will go to other wineries here.
I'm Bernard Nichols, Lola's husband, and we've been farming here since 2001. We started planting our first vineyards, and we started off with Shiraz, which is in the block further over the hill here, and then we after that planted Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, we got Cabernet Sauvignon over here, and then Cabernet Franc, and then worked our way around and then planted Malbec and Petit Verdot, because Lola's passion has always been for Bordeaux style wines. And then later on in 2010 we added a little bit of Chenin Blanc, which is off down here on the left, and some Viognier at the back here. So our soil types are mostly it's oak leaf and Clove Valley soil types. On the other side of the Simonsberg there, going up to Takara, they have very rich red soils, which tends to give a lot of vigor, and those are called Hutton soils. Yeah. So, but these are very ideal soils suited for growing of red wine grapes in particular. One winemaker said to us that this is Cab Sav country. This area here. So we form part of the Simonsberg, and our ward area is Simonsberg Paarl, and you've got Paarl off in the distance there with Paarl Rock. So that's our ward area down the hill there. So that's just showing you how that's an irrigation, and then how the vine's using the water. And so we're measuring the top 0 to 400 millimeters, and then 400 to 800 millimeters, so the top and the bottom soil. Maybe I got one that might be a bit more better there, so that can show you quite clearly. So the vertical line is irrigation, and then also what they do is they calibrate the capacitance with the probe, by doing on that green mark there should be a photograph. Why won't it open? Dear me. It's gone, sorry. But so we do physical soil samples,
right,
and check it against the probe, because we're making wine, certified wine, so
right.
They're very strict in this country if you're making certified wine.